I've taught over the years 35 different college courses or ensembles, including the jazz bands and woodwind quintets, saxophone quartets, music theory, music history and literature for majors, jazz studies courses such as improvisation, different levels, and jazz comp and arranging. Last winter semester I taught jazz comp and arranging. Yeah, jazz methods, jazz history. Woodwind methods, that's an education course, teaching future band directors how to teach woodwinds in the schools. Just all kinds of different classes.
Yeah, sounds like definitely taught a lot. So how long have you taught here?
27 years here. I taught 4 years at North Dakota State in Fargo before coming here. I taught 1 year of full-time adjunct at BYU. I taught as an associate instructor in graduate school at Indiana University. I even taught as an undergraduate. I did saxophone quartets and private lessons for BYU back in the 80s. So I've been teaching to make my living for 42 years.
Wow.
And I've been teaching university level for, depends on how you count it, but about 35 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of experience. So where did your interest in music begin?
That's an interesting question because we didn't really have a lot of music in the home. Neither of my parents play an instrument, sing, or anything. My dad was pretty interested in music, so he bought a real nice stereo system and lots of recordings, and they were pretty diverse. We had everything from Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley to classical symphonies that we could listen to in the home, but mostly it was just what was on the radio or what my friends played when I was at their house. No piano in the home. I didn't have any of that stuff growing up, but for some reason I was just attracted to music. I started the band program in the public schools in 7th grade. Played trombone the first little while, then switched to saxophone. I switched to saxophone because my brother played trombone and he didn't want me playing the same thing he did. So I looked around, listened to some concerts, and I liked the saxophone, so I moved over. So when my dad found out that I liked saxophone, he bought me albums of the only saxophone player he'd ever heard of from the Grand Ole Opry, Boots Randolph. I don't know if you've heard that tune, Yakety Sax. It's the theme song to the Benny Hill Show.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That's Boots Randolph. So he bought me Boots Randolph albums. So it wasn't jazz necessarily, but he was trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty cool. So I don't know, I just was attracted to it. I bought a guitar, saved up my money, and bought myself a guitar and taught myself how to play out of books and listening and copying what I heard, and just went on from there. I didn't start college in music. I started in athletics. I was running track and field for BYU my first year there. I switched to music after my mission. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so it says you told me you taught around a lot, did a bunch of different stuff before coming here to BYU-Idaho. So how did you end up here specifically?
I got a lot of phone calls. I was teaching in North Dakota, and I got a phone call from Ray Smith at BYU. He's the saxophone professor at BYU. And he just learned that there was an opening here. They had created a woodwind position. It wasn't a saxophone position. It was multi-woodwinds. And that's what I was teaching in North Dakota. I did my master's and doctorate in multiple woodwinds, saxophone, clarinet, flute, oboe, and bassoon. And even as an undergraduate, I took music major level lessons on flute and clarinet as well as saxophone. So the idea was to get a job, because in the 1980s, I started college in 79 with track and field, and so the music was in the 80s. There weren't any saxophone positions hardly across the country. There were a few. There's just a handful, though, and it didn't seem practical to me to dedicate solely to saxophone because of employment. So I majored in multiple woodwinds. When this job was advertised, it was a multi-woodwind job. So Ray Smith gave me a call and said it'd be nice to have a contact up there because many of our students, Rick's College students, would go to BYU. Many went to Utah State, but Ray wanted that connection. So I said, no, I don't want the job. I'm happy here. I had just finished a big research project. I had just finished a national presentation. I just didn't want to move. I didn't want to go to a junior college, Rick's College. But then I got a phone call from Kendall Nielsen, who was the committee chair, asking me to apply, and I told him no. And then I got a call from Max Checketts, who was the academic vice president at the time, and he wanted me to apply, and I said no. And he says, well, we want to get you on campus so the Spirit can help you decide. I said, oh, why did you have to say that? So I said, okay, I'll come on campus. But here's the funny thing. I didn't get the job. Oh. They offered it to somebody else. And I know the guy. He's really nice. He's good. He's qualified. But he didn't accept the job. He felt it wasn't the right time for him to move. So they offered it to me. So I came. The Spirit said come.
Yeah. Wow, that's a really interesting way how it all ended up happening, how it all ended up working out.
Yeah, a lot of times the stories work out that way. You never know where you're going to be. But the thing is, when I was in North Dakota, they put me on the committee, the curriculum committee. You know, how you design degree programs and courses and all that stuff. And then after 2 years, I was the chair of the committee, and during that time period, we had rebuilt all of our degree programs, which made me study the guidelines from the National Association of Schools of Music very thoroughly. We'd also been through a national review, so I knew college curriculum inside out and backwards. After my first year here, President Hinckley announced the conversion to the university. Nobody on the faculty at that time had ever worked at a 4-year school. I was the only one that had been at one. And so I designed all of our original degrees. If there was a reason that I had to be here, initially anyway, the Lord wanted me here. Who knows what the deal was. The other guy was inspired to not take the job. I came at a time when they needed the skills that I had developed in North Dakota. You can say it's coincidence or whatever, but I think we shouldn't deny that the Lord is in charge.
And I guess just the last thing I'd want to ask is, what are you looking forward to in your retirement?
Well, that's a little bit hard to answer, really, because working with the performance ensembles, I've been doing the combos this semester, and that's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed working with the students, and they really did a good job this semester, and I was very proud of them, very pleased with their concerts and all. And the same with I'm working with the saxophone quartet, and they did great. And just working with students is a joy. It's why we're all here, is to help people. Faculty don't come in because of any type of pride, saying, look at all I know, and you revere me because I am the sage. Nobody's here for that reason. The faculty, they work hard to develop skills that are sufficient to help people. And then we work at the university and come here because, we want to work with these kids, and we want to help them along and help them develop professionally and get jobs, and help them to develop spiritually and be strong in the church and all of that. And I'll miss that. I'll miss that a lot, working with students in every aspect, whether it's the general ed class with lots of students or smaller courses such as the jazz comp and arranging. That's a highly specialized course. It's not general ed. It's just a pleasure to work with these students. They're all such wonderful people, and they're all so different. So, that I'll miss that. People always ask, are you going to go on a mission? Because that's a typical thing to do when you retire. But I've got family responsibilities at the moment that kind of prevent that, at least for now. And then I'd have to figure out what kind of a mission the church would have me do being completely blind. I'm sure there's something. So eventually that'll probably happen. Part of the retirement is, just having a little bit more freedom. I won't be held down by anything connected to the university. I don't have to be in class on these days. I can choose what I want to do more freely. So everybody wants that, I think. I look forward to the freedom again to be able to go visit family. My kids are spread all out. I've got a son that works at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. He and his family are there. And I have a daughter in Portland. I have a son in Richland, Washington, working at the Pacific Northwest National Lab. And those are spread around. I have some of them closer by. And I've got other family. My brother's down in Utah. My mom's down there. And my wife's family's down. Some of them are down there too. And, I have a sister in Albuquerque, and I like New Mexico. Maybe we'll go down there. I don't know. It'd be nice to have the freedom to travel around and visit these people and strengthen those bonds and all. And there's other projects that I want to do besides fixing up the house, which we never have enough time to do. I've got a couple of books that are already written that I need to finish editing. I'm going to continue to play with my professional saxophone quartet. We've had that quartet since 2005. And there's new members in it now because the old members got old. So I've got new kids in the group, and I'm still going to work with them and maybe do an album in a year or so and try to get more performances and keep playing. And there's a lot of stuff to do.